name is Shreya. Welcome to the Apple Film Festival's director panel. I'm really excited to be here. I'm going to pass along to my co-moderator to introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Julian Santos. I'm a Bronx-based producer and director, and excited to talk to the directors today.
Hi, my name is Teresa Esmeralda Sanchez, and I'm the director of Fixed Point screening December 10th.
Hello, my name is Sam Krebs. I'm the writer and director of Treadmill, which is a short that's screening also on the 10th at 8:30.
Hi, my name is Sean Perry, and I'm the director of Track 7, which is screening December 10th as well.
Hello, my name is Kaye France. I am the director, writer, actress for Legacy Chantal, which screened earlier this week on Tuesday. Congratulations.
All right, thank you guys so much for your introductions. So our first question is going to be, what have you learned so far in your careers, as well as how did you reach this point in your careers? Whoever wants to start off.
What's the number one thing that I learned?
Just first thing that anything that you want to share that you've learned, and as well as how you reached this point in your career.
One of the things that I learned was that at the end of the day, success is a byproduct of doing what you want long enough. And I feel like I've been doing this I've been filmmaking for at least 10 years, and every time that I make a movie, I learn something new, and I just become more successful, just like everyone else here. Making a movie, period, is a feat on its own. So I would say that's one thing that I've learned all right time.
Yeah, totally. My background primarily is camera department. That's kind of by trade. I've been doing that for 10, 12 years now. So, and also had some experience with like G&E and art department stuff kind of coming up. And I definitely think that it's to kind of mesh those two questions together, like to learn all the ins and outs of the different departments and how a crew moves and how it operates really kind of helps you on the day when you're actually trying to create something and using all those collaborators together. It's really helpful.
Something that I've learned, I would say, would be to enjoy the journey. I think sometimes we focus often on like end product or like finalizing and getting there, but we forget that the journey to get to where we are today is like pretty, it's like fun to look back on. And I mean, what was the second part of the question again?
Just like how you reached this point in
How I
your
reached-
career.
I would just say determination and continue to believe in myself and never giving up. I know it can be kind of odd to like say, oh, believe in yourself, believe in your dreams, and it can be a little fearful, it can be scary, but I always say like, as long as you believe in yourself and you continue to go, you'll continue to grow.
So I started off acting and writing, and this is the first short film that I've directed. So to echo what you said, I think it's very important to know everybody's job, especially for an independent film, because at some point you're going to do it. You're going to be the captain, the editor, do the color correcting, do marketing, PR, and I think that it's very important to take time to know that you only can really depend on yourself for your film, like your creation, and to not put your product, because your film is a product, into anyone's hands completely. Like you gotta have to know how to step in and take charge and be able to know the ins and outs of everyone's job, because you may have to do it.
I also wanted to add one more thing. So what you were saying was like, even if you don't necessarily know exactly what the job is, the ins and outs, know what you want. Know what the story needs, because the story is what you're serving at the end of the day.
And speaking of, what challenges did you find making the movies that you're bringing to Big Apple this festival season? What obstacles did you have to overcome as a director?
I had many obstacles to overface because I was the producer, writer, director, editor, and one of my biggest challenges was figuring out how to do analog animation. I I knew I wanted to do experimental. And I understood technically how to do it, but like actually manipulating the 60mm film was a journey. But it was a lot of fun, and I just enjoyed myself in the process.
Totally. Similar to that, the technical aspects for ours, for those who don't know, it's the whole thing was shot in first person and with a helmet rig. So our lead was also, she's credited as our camera operator as well. So it was kind of, the technical hurdles of that, and kind of like not only directing, I mean, it's so weird directing someone, an actor who's focused on the performance, but also has to be focused on actually getting the shots. Was a different kind of thing than I'd ever done before. That was definitely the biggest thing.
I would say I had a couple of challenges. We filmed Track 7 kind of toward the tail end of COVID. It's a pretty decent sized cast. So chemistry was a big thing for me, just making sure all the actors had good chemistry. So we had a lot of Zoom calls, and one of our male leads was from California, and he flew into town, and there was a hurricane, so his team evac him. It was like right before the first day of filming. So luckily, for that particular role, there was a lot of people who auditioned, and I found someone who was willing and able to come in and learn the script within like 14 hours, the most like impactful moment in the film. So we learned it. The cast wasn't aware. They, adjusted. So I would say that was the most challenging thing, but at the end, it was like the best decision I thought. So I think it was meant to happen. So, yeah.
I think the most challenging thing for me was, in addition to being a writer and director, I was the lead actress and the executive producer. So writing was fun. I wouldn't say the easiest part, but the most time that I got to be the most creative. And the executive producing part was just like, okay, well, this is just the job. But when I was on set trying to be being the director and the actors, especially because it was mainly just two people, so you can't just wing it. Like I had to kind of bring it and everything for the scene and then for the crew. That was challenging. But now I feel like I can do it. That's good.
Great. So we definitely want to hear some questions from the audience. But before we do have one more question. What is the one piece of advice you would give any aspiring director? What would that be and why?
My one piece of advice is one that I carry from Anna Biller, who is the director. She says, the only way to make something original is to make it personal. I think Seth Rogen recently talked about this, but there's something really interesting that happens, that the more personal you make something, the more universal it is, and it really connects to folks. So just focus on what moves you and it'll move others.
I think, it's like a balance, finding a balance of like, because you're kind of the creative driver of this thing, and like there's a lot of people kind of looking to you to make decisions. So, and hopefully you've hired people that you trust and you love their input, and you have to listen because there's so much going on, and you have to listen to their input, but also find that balance and don't be afraid to like just trust your gut and trust your own intuition. But it's definitely a balance because it's a collaborative effort.
So I would say take time as a director to experiment in different genres so you can kind of like get a feel for what you genuinely really want to do. There's so much out there, so I would just say taking time to drama, comedy, and figuring out what your niche is, so then that way you can really like dive deep in and like take over,
I would say it's very important not to measure your success as a director on symbols of external validation. And I know I'm saying this sitting on a panel at a film festival, but if you only think that your film mattered or it's a success based on what awards it wins or like the film festivals you get into, you're not really going to get the full joy of creating a film, being a filmmaker. So you kind of have to be internally satisfied with what you create and not in like an egomaniac kind of way but just please know that it doesn't depend if you get into this festival, if you win that award, or if you get that article written up about your film. It really is like knowing that you did it, which is like a minor miracle because filmmaking is difficult.
Great, we're taking questions from the audience now. Any hands?
So my question for you is, was there anything about this specific project that is being shown at the Big Apple that maybe you discovered something different within the project as being the director that kind of shocked you? Was there anything specific about this project that felt maybe different?
I think it's not really shocked, but it's really refreshing to attend an event like this and get crowd reactions, because ours is like sci-fi horror, so you get that like, because you stare at something for so long, you kind of lose perspective, and I'm sure comedy is the same, like, you know, hear people laugh, hear people yell, scream, whatever, it's like kind of refreshing and kind of reinvigorates that original reason why you did it in the first place.
For me, I would say it's the community that was built when creating the film. Most of us have kept in touch and like helped each other out afterwards. So I would say for me that was like shocking, but like that we've all continued to like stay in contact and pass on jobs to one another and just check in and see how we're doing. So it's like a family that we built. So yeah.
I think for me it would be kind of learning about the process of what happens to your film after it's completed, because you know, I had this idea that, okay, it's done and woo, it's like a rainbow and butterflies, but it's not going to be like that. So I feel that what I've come to understand, which kind of speaks to like my earlier response, is it really is the journey, not the destination. You kind of have to find peace within yourself and not measure how other people view your film, even if they love it or they hate it. You gotta keep it like the same. Your opinions and your feelings about what you created the same, so that you're able to like continue on in life.
Something different about this film that happened was it was the first time that I really worked with limitations. Me and my team, we put a whole bunch of random elements in a hat, location, props, character relationships, all things we had at our disposal. And we worked within those random elements to create these pieces. And I never really built anything off that, but really trusting the process and watching it develop and like letting things happen as they should be, serving the story. It left me with something that I couldn't have imagined that much when I first started. So it was great. Always trust the process.
Great. Any other questions from the audience?
Hi, I'm Emily. I was wondering if you guys could talk about the process of fundraising and financing for each of your projects.
Oh,
When I self-financed everything, so it was one surprise after another, to be honest with you, because there was always something else that needed to be done, and this was like the first time that I created a film, so I wasn't aware of everything that needed to be done, and I had, different deadlines, so I don't know if I would do it this way again, but, it's a lesson learned.
Same. I also self-financed, but I did have like investors as well. But I would recommend, just because in the beginning of the process, I did have a few people who wanted to finance the entire thing. However, when you do that, you kind of like lose creative control, and they kind of have a lot more input on everything. So depending on how you want to take it, if you do that route, that's great because it's easy on you. However, you may potentially lose a little bit of that creative. So I would say that, yeah, sure. But if you're gonna self-finance, please look at your budget and really take account to everything, because things, like you said, pop up. Like insurance, all of those things pop up. Location scouting, if you have overtime, the crew, like craft, like actually.
For this project, we actually crowdfunded the entire budget, so that I can talk about that at length if you want to know about. It was like a full-time job. It was like a month and a half of like, you know, just getting traffic to the Kickstarter, which yeah, I mean, it's a process. It's really, really tough. It's like I said, full-time job, social media presence. It has to kind of, and you're the only one doing it, so yeah, it's tough, but we hit our goal.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
Talk about it.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just we had a budget in mind, and I mean the metrics of it, like you're only gonna get like 2% of the amount of the traffic that you get to your site. Like it's just about getting eyeballs and then just having a good enough presentation on there to kind of like keep people focused on it, and then eventually if they want, like your average donation is gonna be like $5 to $20. So it's really about getting large amounts of people to the Kickstarter, and yeah, just there's like pre-pro involved with that too. Like shoot some videos, like do some like interviews with yourself or whoever you have involved. Like just try to make a really solid presentation, and nowadays there's also a lot of assets you can use to help you. So there's like services and things out there that can coach you to get to your goals. So yeah, it probably took a few years off my life. Yeah, with TikTok and everything now, I mean, just you're just churning content, you know, just getting eyeballs. So that's it in a nutshell. But yeah.
As I mentioned before, my team and I used everything that was already within our means to make our project. And really it was just an exercise to make something, period, based off of what we had. So my team consists of 5 people, and everyone who was part of my team is a part of my team, either acted, DP, was my AD, and filled those roles. My mom, who's here, cooked us crafty. She made us bringing and rice, and it is still one of the best meals, crafty meals to date. The crew still talks about it. But yeah, I think that if making a story period is important, just use what you have at your disposal, pool all of your resources. A lot of the people who work on my projects is a labor exchange. I was like, I'll give you a free day if you come do a free day for me. I did put a 2-year stipulation so that I can like light a fire underneath them so they could like also make things sooner. But these are like all different ways that you can make your stories come to life.
Do you have a question?
Hi, my name is Eloise, and my question for you is, as a director, what are the most important things you look for in your actors and casting?
It's really hard to say what exactly it is you're looking for because you're just looking for a feeling. It's like really easy to say on this side of the table, on this end of the casting, or it's just like you're just looking for a feeling, and it can be really frustrating for talent as well because they're like, well, what is it? But it's not really explainable. It's just, yeah, I don't know. It's a feeling. That's all it is, and it's a feeling that you have. And then it's also the feeling the chemistry between the cast, like he was saying. There's like, you have to build a real relationship. When you feel it, it's only like, oh yeah, I got it. Because you can have an extremely talented actor or actress, but they might not be for this role. And that becomes clear the more you start asking and going through books. So I was looking for someone that I really saw the character the first time because I wrote it, and I actually auditioned for the role. So I was like, do I want to act in this? But I saw the tapes and I was like, I didn't get this feeling watching myself, so I felt it from my friend, and so she got it. So that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, I think everyone's different. Again, because I wrote my project as well, like you kind of have this image in your head of who these people are. So yeah, for some people it's very easy, like you narrow it down to 5 people, you kind of go through that, and then yeah, it's really easy. For other people, one of the biggest parts in ours, Lawrence Oliver Cherry, He plays this character named Dr. Gardner, who we just couldn't cast for a long time. Like, we were just having a really hard time just narrowing it down. But yeah, it was a process, but he killed it, and he's one of the best aspects of the movie. And it just like it kind of took a while for us to jog our, just get to that point where we could pull the trigger on it. But yeah.
For me, some of my favorite parts of filming is the casting process. I have a little bit of approach to it, I would say. So there was a decent amount of casting age range as well. We had like a mother, we had a young daughter, we also had a cast of like 7 young adults early in their early years. So for me, it's about feeling, like you said, but oftentimes when I'm casting, instead of visually looking at you, I'll close my eyes and just listen to you. And if I feel something while listening to you, then it's like, okay, you may have exactly what I'm looking for, and then after that, I do a few reads before it's official with other cast members that I'm thinking would win well with, and then I see you guys are working well together, it's like, okay, it's matched. But afterwards, too, I also will send casting tapes or parts of casting tapes in different group chats with different demographics, just to see how they relate and respond to different actors. So, for example, I'm casting a mom who's in my film. I wanted her to be portrayed in a specific light, so I sent it to different friends of mine, as well as like my mom and my aunt and my grandmother as well, to see kind of like how you feel when listening to these characters. So for me, that's like a big thing, just because I want you to relate to the characters, I want you to see yourself on the screen, and emotion is like a huge thing for me. So yeah, it's my favorite part. Say castings.
For me, for actors, I was looking for a sense of professionalism first and foremost, because there have been times where I looked at a screen test or like a reel and thought to myself, okay, this is the person. And then when they were in the room, I thought, not the person at all. And sometimes even after they've been hired, they come on set and it can be a real distraction if you don't have an actor that is really excited to be there and really feels strongly about the piece of work that you guys are trying to create. So it's a sense of professionalism and like the ability, I guess, to work in a team and take direction. Because even if they're the greatest actor in the world, if they can't be professional and take direction from you, it's not going to work out. And sometimes you can tell in an audition and other times you can't. So I got really lucky with my actors because when I was doing the casting, it was the strike, the SAG strikes. They couldn't work with on certain sets, and I got actors that have been acting for decades, 60 years more than and they just liked the script. So I felt really lucky, and I learned from them. So it was a great experience. The actors were clutch. I liked it.
Thank you guys so much for your answers. Do we have any more questions? Yeah, go for it.
Hey y'all. So as directors, where do you place emphasis and balance on talent performance versus, I suppose, like the visual composition of your films and how the camera plays a role in it?
It's a hard one. Who wants to go first?
So for me personally, when I wrote my script as well as directing it, I have like a look for each character, but I'm not going to say that I'm too strict on them. I like to have a general basis of, okay, they may sound like this, they may dress like this, but overall, you want to stay true to what you wrote, and you want to stay true to the visual of everything, but you also want the performance to be good. So I would say, to me, I think the performance matters a little bit more than the visual, because you can always, they're actors, it makes it transform. So if you're an actor, you should be able to transform to whatever you want you to be. And for me, I had a few characters dye hair, transform them to exactly what we wanted. So because their performance was so good, you believed it. So to me, believability trumps visual.
I agree with you because I was casting someone that was supposed to be my grandfather. So I was looking at the headshots and thought, okay, he looked like he could be my grandfather and he looked like he could be my grandfather. So I kind of had favorites coming in, and then they came to me as a very nice man, but not the right man for this role. And I ended up casting someone who was great in the audition, but didn't necessarily look like me, but it didn't really matter. So I agree with you. It's really about the performance and your ability to work with actors to bring out what you need.
Yeah, because ours is kind of weird in that the actor is the camera operator, like she was wearing the camera. Yeah, it was like directing had to be kind of like this choreography as well, so it wasn't just about performances, it was almost like, I kept saying ballet, I don't know if that's overreaching, but yeah, it was, so we definitely had like some physical, like she had like yoga experience and a lot of dance experience, so physicality was a big part of that, but yeah.
I think in storytelling, it's important to remember, especially in this type of storytelling, that the camera itself is a character to some degree. And like how the character interacts with the characters and the environment really impacts how you receive a performance. There's a difference between looking someone in the eye while they tell you the truth or looking down at your feet. And like both of those tell a very different story. And when you're true to like the message and the themes, that'll tell you exactly where the camera needs to be.
Thank you for the answers. Are there any other questions from the house?
Hi, it sounds like a lot of you have like a great community of collaborators you work with. Do you have any advice about how to assemble the right team?
Your team is whoever you feel like helps you deliver the message the most. For me, I have a production team. Half of them I went to college with at Brooklyn College, and we've been working together at the same production company for the past 5 years. So that's like our foundation. But really, places like this are the best place to go to meet your potential team. You know, you ask people what you like to do, and you build a roster, and then you call them and you're like, hey, listen, I have this thing. I don't really know what happened, but you'd be surprised how many people are eager to like use their skills to help you tell your story. Like, do not underestimate the power of community in this industry. So I would say just ask around. You never know.
Yeah, I agree. I think events like this are a great opportunity to sort of network and meet other people that kind of want to go on that journey with you, maybe. I've been very fortunate that I've been working in the film and television industry for about 12 years, so just in the production side, so I've had, all my friends are grip and electrics and assistant camera people, so, and plus, I mean, someone brought this up earlier, but we shot ours during the strike, so it was a lot of crew that was not working, a lot of talented crew members that I don't think we would have gotten if it wasn't for those circumstances.
I would say networking while on sets prior to your actual film would help as well, because you never know who you connect with. I went through a series of DPs that I was kind of like thinking of working with, and my whole thing was for it to be similarly shot to Euphoria, so that kind of like piqued certain DPs' interest as opposed to others who were more documentary style or like different aesthetics. So for me, that was like a big thing, and then as well as like my producer, she was like, oh, this script is great, I'm listening to one of my friends, and then that's how I ended up getting the DP that I have today. And then she brought on another producer who was interested, and then a friend of mine from college as well, who I worked with all throughout college. She was like, I'd be down to help as well. So I had a decent team from college based on, and then also networking and things like that. So when you're on set, make sure you're talking to people and making sure you're staying in contact with them and supporting them as well, just because it's a community. You have to always help one another. But yeah, I would say that was my approach in building my team.
I would say I'm still learning on how to build the right team, because I went to school for communications and I have a minor in theater, but I didn't go to film school. So it seems like when you go to film school, you already have like the built-in community, and I didn't have that. So I started from the ground level of like, whose work do I like, and when I reach out to them, how do they respond to me and who they recommend. So it was like brick by brick. And I do think it does come down to networking, of course, but also you do have to speak to the people and see like, do you want to work with me, or is this like an opportunity for you to make money? Because I found that on the set or throughout the pre-production process, you could tell who was just there for the check and who actually felt strongly about the story. And you're not necessarily going to be able to tell beforehand, so it's just going to be trial and error. And then once you get your people, I guess, hold them close and cultivate those relationships for the next project you work on.
I also like to say, make sure you have your pitch decks and everything really tight and really clean. And don't be scared to outreach, because outreach is possible. You'll email people and just letting them know, like, hey, this is what I'm working with budget-wise. This is the script. If you're interested, let me know, because you never know. Some people may want to work with you that you may not have thought would want it to you. And you're just like, oh, you believe in it as well. So I always say, don't be scared. Reach out to whoever you see fit for your project.
Yeah, all good. Are you sure?
Oh, yeah.
Do we have any more questions from the audience? Hello, Sam.
It's my idea.
There are so many elements in directing. I mean, you're in charge of the entire creative vision, so you have to care about production design and the performances and the camera. Was there anything for all of you, each of you, that was like more scary, that you were like, oh my God, this element is something that I'm not willing to rely on my department head on, or just something that you were kind of intimidated by, and how did that end up playing out? And yeah, how did you take on the huge challenge of like being in charge of everything?
I was scared that the production was going to get just canceled. I had a couple of instances where 2 people that I hired to be DP contract payment, they just canceled. And then I had to move the production back. And luckily other people wanted to, like the actors and the other heads of their departments wanted to work, and they were made themselves available, but that was the fear. I was like, okay, I'm gonna show up, please show up. And then once we got there, I was afraid that the cops were gonna shut us down because we were shooting on the street. And there was a scene where I was walking up the stairs and we needed to have the lights in a certain direction, and a neighbor across the street called the cops, and then the cops came and they're like, where's the director? Like, I'm the director, and I'm coming in my costume, and they're like, you're not supposed to have the lights here. Well, I'm like, well, they're not touching the ground, and we're gonna put them somewhere else, and thank you for your time. So you really had to, stand up and advocate for yourself. So this was like the second production that I've done where the cops just showed up. I don't know what it is, they just like to like show up to these productions. So that is always a fear of mine that, after everything is said and done, it's not be canceled. And to, at least be able to speak intelligently and say, please don't cancel it, and here's what we can do to make you and the neighbors okay.
For me, I would say sound. Sound is like a huge part of anything we do. No matter how good it looks, the song doesn't sound good. It's like, ah. So I come from the world of music videos, the music video work, which is, don't really have to worry about that. Maybe a little bit of sound design here. And this is my second narrative piece. My one before that was my senior thesis in college. So I was very strict with myself, like, Sean, you know how sound is. So for me, I did the sound design itself, but mixing was something I wasn't familiar with. So finding someone that could mix it, and audio engineering was like, I would say that was the hardest part for me, finding someone who knew how to do that, because I had to get everything mixed. So sound was the biggest obstacle that I faced. But it was fun building the rooms and building the scenes from scratch. So like going outside, recording the birds, right? Cars going by, stuff like that. So yeah.
Claire at Peterson was my AD, by the way. But I remember our biggest hurdle was VFX, because we literally didn't have a VFX coordinator on set. But we knew enough of the technical aspects going into it that we knew what to do to kind of prepare ourselves for the post process and all the tracking and everything. Yeah, that was probably the biggest, most intimidating thing.
I want to say the analog animation was the most intimidating thing, but once I figured out how to do it, it was pretty smooth sailing. The hardest thing was, much like you, the production, the sound design in the end, because up until this point, I'd worked in all departments. I've done camera, G&E, I do location sound for trade, I've done editing, but like when it came to the post, and I'm like also working on a sci-fi, I'm like, how do I create the sound of silence? You know, or the feeling of silence? And I had to work with my post sound guy, as a Brandon Vanderbilt plug, and I really had to figure out how I was going to direct something that you can't see. So I just sat next to him and I was like, it just needs a little bit of this here, maybe a little less of that there. And it was just a lot of trial and error until it felt right.
Any other questions? Yes.
How do you not get ahead of yourself during the process? And exactly what drives you guys to see the project to fruition, especially during obstacles like political differences and COVID?
Yes, I think obviously we all know that film is it's a marathon, right? You've got pre-production, you've got production, and you've got post-production. So just how do you manage, changing times, changing politics, and stay true to yourself and get this thing shown at the festival?
Sometimes I like to lie to myself about how the process is going to go. And I just focus on one phase at a time. So like most of the film, as we all can attest to, happens in pre-production. You plan everything out when it's done right beforehand. That way, when you're on set, that should be the easiest thing because you're just executing everything that you set up. And so I think taking it phase by phase is like, I just have to think I just have to set us up until production. And then once you get there, you're like, okay, I've done everything I need to do. Let's just do it. And then you can sort of like have fun and be like, oh my gosh. And when you're really confident in your story, then you can experiment, like you say, because you're like, I thought this, I planned for this, but we have time and space. Let's try this. And then you get excited again because you're like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. And then you get a second win because you're like, I can't wait to see it all together. And then you're like, oh, this is gonna take a minute. But then you're like, I've made it this far, I just need to see it through. There's no reason why I have to stop now. So I think that's sort of like my pace. And then by the time it's festivals, I'm like, I don't know if I'll get in. And then you might slow down a little if you don't have the festival run, like you said. But like you said, you can't get bogged down about it because the festivals don't reflect your movie. How you feel about it is how you feel about it. And it's very much like making a baby. They're gonna grow up and they're gonna go into the world and you have no control after that. So enjoy the control you do have.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. I think it's pre-pro is king. Pre-pro is like the number one thing. The more prep you do, the better it's gonna be on the day. Yeah, again, like you're the one driving the bus as the director, so it's really just like, trust yourself, trust your gut. Yeah, as far as the hardships and everything else, the big thing for us, and we talked about it at length on when we started ours, was safety is the number one thing. With COVID, we all know how that went, just like how crews started to operate, and just making sure everyone feels safe and secure and comfortable on set is like the number one thing for me. But, yeah.
Yes, I would have to agree with everyone. Pre-production is key. Knowing your color palette you would like to use, shot lists that you wanted to do, location scouting, knowing how you want to actually set up in said location prior to getting there. Also, music too. That's a big thing. I know sound is a thing, but also the music in the score. So for us, we have original score, which was like really cool. Process to do like original music and things like that. But COVID was a challenge. A lot of the actors did not meet one another until they got on set. They didn't live in New York City, and we had a few cast members that were from Miami and Los Angeles. So they got on set. They were like, "Oh, hey, nice to meet you." We had a COVID protocol, obviously, but I would say that was the biggest thing, just not necessarily having that physical interaction. But some cast members who lived here, they took the initiative to meet up outside of like rehearsals to like get that chemistry so they can feel like best friends or feel like they're dating and have romantic interest. Yeah, that was probably the hardest thing, this COVID thing, yeah.
So I wrote a feature script first, and I was getting ready to kind of pitch it out, and I guess the industry connect said, you need a call to heart, you need a short film, and this short film could be your proof of concept for the feature, because my short film is called Legacy Chantal, which is about one of the characters in the feature film, Legacy, Sins of the Father. So when things got difficult, and they got difficult, you know, often, I just kept telling myself I have to get this done, because if I stop now, then what about, you know, my call to heart for the feature film? And there were times when I felt like I was driving with no wheels, and it was just gonna like just fire and like a lot of like sparks coming, and I'm like, I just gotta get to the finish line. And I didn't know it until maybe about a month after everything was done, and I said, wow, that just happened. And I finished it by the grace of God, because that was difficult.
Just that I forgot part of your question was like the motivation part, how do you stay motivated? I would just say taking your time, not rushing it, and understanding it's a process, because I kind of like was so eager to put it out. I was like, oh, I have to get this done, I have to get this done, and I was like, okay, calm down a little bit, like relax, and really get your sound right, because you don't want to rush something, and just for the sake of getting it done, and then you're watching it on screen like, oh, I taking a little bit more time in the editing room, or taking a little bit more time like cutting these things up, it could be a lot better. So just not rushing the process and enjoying it.
Great, thank you guys so much. We are unfortunately at the end of our directors panel, but I'd like to give a big thanks to our wonderful directors for coming and speaking to us. And yeah, we hope you guys have a great time at the Big Apple Film Festival. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for being here. At 2 o'clock, we do have an interesting panel on AI, which is going to feature actor Matthew Modine, Golden Globe winner, Emmy nominee. He's in shows like Stranger Things, films like Full Metal Jacket, directed by Stanley Kubrick. He'll be here for that panel along with his producing partner, Adam Rakoff. So that starts at 2, which is about 15 minutes. That'll be a 45-minute panel as well. So feel free to check that out. And
Where will it be?
Thank you all to our panelists.
What theater is it?
It's here.
Oh, it's right here.
The same
It's going to
one?
take place right in this
Okay.
theater.